Just a little before 4 o'clock Eastern time. We'll be with you till 6:30 this evening, wrapping up all the activity from Bump Day at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We were with you for 7.5 hours yesterday, and we're with you for 6.5 hours today. So we set the stage for the greatest spectacle in racing a week from today here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. The track is open for practice. The field is full for this year's running of the greatest spectacle in racing, and on the track, Helio Castroneves and Scott Dixon are working together.
And this would be a scenario that you may well see on race day. Both Robbie Buell and I think that even though Scott Dixon wasn't as racy as he wanted to be in qualifying, that he'll be a definite player in the race. Castroneves would like now every opportunity that he can get to size him up, to figure out what it's going to take to run with the likes of Scott Dixon.
Dixon qualifying yesterday for the outside of the second row at a 4-lap average of 226.233 miles an hour.
Just to give you an idea, they're running around at 221-ish at the moment, and we've talked a lot about their speeds into turn one. In race trim, it comes down a lot. About 224, 225 miles an hour, where they're up to 232 was Helio in qualifying.
The last two Indy 500s have been won from the pole, and involved are the two guys that you see on the screen now, Scott Dixon and Helio Castroneves. Down to Jaques Lazier.
Let me take you back here to the Izod Performance Pit and talk about something that we tend to neglect unless you're a driver. Now, helmets have evolved through the course of the years. Now, when Bob and I first started covering the Indy 500, they still used the open-face leather helmets. Now, when Jan and Robbie were driving, it's similar, a little bit like a conventional full-face helmet. But then after that, they decided that they needed to trim the helmet out the same way they trim a car out. So they began to add some ripple strips. The idea being that they could route the air effectively over the helmet. Well, it's gone to the next iteration now. You see drivers that need to trim their helmets out. Here's what they do, and here's the latest, although no drivers are using this right now, but what they do is they add little inlets, they add little ripples, and they'll trim it with simple weather stripping so that it disrupts the air, and the most important thing is routes it over the head, keeps the head stable, and more importantly, gets as much air as possible into the air inlet that is right above each and every driver's head.
And Jack, of course, it's amazing that one little piece of weather stripping can make the difference between your helmet feeling like it's going to get sucked off your head and keeping it stable. A little bit of turbulence, Bob, and it just blurs your vision because the air gets a little bit disrupted across the helmet, and all of a sudden, A, you get a headache, B, you can't see where you're going, and you say, okay, time for a little bit of tuning on the old noggin.
And speak for yourself, Jack, on the leather.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah.
You missed that, Robbie. Jaques Lazier said that when he and Bob were covering, they had the leather helmets. You and I had at least the real full-face jocks.
Yeah, we had it easy. We had it easy.
Yeah. Stay with us for more coming up on 2 hours to go on Bump Day at Indianapolis. They have lowered the garage door back in Gasoline Alley at Tony Kanaan's spot. They are just thrashing and trying to figure out what in the world is going on. In case you don't know, and in case you're just joining us, yesterday Kanaan crashed. We thought, as this unfolded this morning, that it was a replay. But about 20 minutes after 9, 20 minutes after the track opened for practice, Kanaan spinning, hitting the wall in exactly the same part of the racetrack. He hit in the short chute today, and yesterday he hit in turn number 2. But tremendous impact. Listen at this. Now compare that to yesterday's crash, which came during his qualifying attempt.
And you saw a few sparks on today's crash, and we saw a few yesterday. He almost kept this off the wall, but look at the reaction of his teammate, Danica Patrick.
Ziggy Harkus also saying, just like yesterday.
Those sparks on the first crash were normal bottoming. It just, Robbie, looked like the back of the car floated, and he almost had that happen to him again in the third car later today.
And when you talk about that floating, that was on his second time by. Both incidents was on the second time by as he'd come out of the pits on sticker tires, bring him up to temperatures and pressures.
Now, you may be wondering, he was lightning fast on Friday. So you say, well, why not just throw a Friday setup onto the car and get right back out where you were? Remember, Friday was completely different conditions. You heard that from Paul Tracy. When the track gets hot, you can't throw the same setup on the car. It acts completely differently. You have to start afresh and find something that works in these kind of conditions.
Yeah, well, if you're watching today, even the conditions going from 12 o'clock when we started for qualifying till 1. And look at this. So we talk about the heat and track temperatures and where it's going. Somebody's rolling in line.
That's Jaques Lazier, and he turned at 2:20.5 a little while ago.
Yeah, and Jan said, you know, noted with a toe, but still, to even get that time with a toe means, you know what, we feel pretty good about that race car.
There's a meeting of the minds. Brian Barnhart and A.J. Foyt.
It used to be 4 to 5. So it doesn't
Track is yellow, and it's for this qualification attempt. It's been quite a while since we had a qualifying attempt, but 12:51 was the last time we had a qualifier. Let's get down to Robbie Floyd.
I'm with the 36 car's driver, Bertrand Baguette, who we're trying to find a nickname for. Now, people in America aren't used to seeing you except for on Versus in the Eyes on IndyCar series. But you've beat some pretty stiff competition like Jamie Alguersuari, who's driving in Formula One, and you even tested F1 back in December. What brought you to the Eyes on IndyCar series?
Well, I think that Eyes on IndyCar series is a very tough championship. Last year I won the Formula Renault 3.5 with a feeder series to Formula One, and I wanted to do something higher, you know, with a higher level. And I think that the Eyes on IndyCar series is a very tough championship. You have a lot of good teams, a lot of good drivers, so I think that's the place to be.
Are you starting to Americanize yourself a little bit? You starting to get the feel of the USA?
I'm trying yet, but I have still a lot to learn. So
how about this track? You learning a lot so far?
Yeah, the track is fantastic. It's a huge circuit, long straight lines, 4 different corners. Really challenging for the driver. I mean, you are close to the wall, and if you do a mistake, you go in the wall. So I like it a lot.
It's known as the greatest spectacle in racing. Did you think it would be this magnanimous?
I didn't think so. No, the first time I came here, I said, wow, it's huge. It's a big, big, big circuit. And I'm curious to see on Sunday how the track will be with 400,000 people in the grandstands. That will be incredible, I think.
It'll be extremely exciting. A rookie, Bertrand Baguette, who we're trying to find a nickname for. Some of the guys in the online say maybe more NASCAR-ish, Bert Baguette instead of Bertrand Baguette.
Right now, he's 24th in the starting lineup. They're the rookies that have qualified. Anna Beatrice is the fastest, starting in 21st position, and Sebastian Saavedra is in the field right now, but he's on the bubble in 33rd spot. So a qualification attempt is just around the corner for Jaques Lazier, who has started 6 Indianapolis 500-mile races and just jumped in this car this morning after apparently some disagreement between A.J. Foyt and his grandson, A.J. Foyt IV. He left, and Jaques Lazier has stepped into the cockpit. Turned at 225.1 not too long ago. So we'll see if he can duplicate that when the chips are down. Stay with us. We'll be back for it in a moment. It is time to go qualifying again at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and Jaques Lazier will try to bump his way into the starting lineup. There is the man who is on the bubble at the moment. I say man, he's 19 years of age. It's Sebastian Saavedra. His speed is 223.634. That's what Lazier will have to better in order to get into the field. We say once again that the slowest in the field right now is Hideki Muto at 223.487, but he is among the Fast 9 from yesterday and therefore is not eligible to be bumped. A.J. Foyt, the owner of the team, looks on as Jaques Lazier gets ready to qualify.
Did a 222.2 warm-up lap, which is right up there with the fastest we've seen. So didn't take him long.
And we're right on schedule. We said, when are folks going to come back out to maybe get some qualifying attempts is 4 o'clock, and sure enough, there was AJ presenting Jaques Lazier car in the 41.
Jaques' first year here at the Speedway was in 2000. He was in the 2001, 3, 5, 6, and 7 race. The green flag comes out. Paul Blevin up in the starter stand waves the green flag, and Jaques Lazier is on his 10-mile run.
There's the tough one. Turn 1, he's through there. Off turn 2. Think about this. Jaques Lazier drove to the racetrack this morning to come in here, not thinking he was getting in a race car.
Probably had no idea that he would be doing this. Yeah.
That he was getting in a car today.
Turned into turn 1 at 225, which is significantly less than we have seen. But there are 2 ways to go around this racetrack. One is to really fly on the straightaway. The other is to maintain speed through the corners, which looks like their approach.
First lap, 222.857. That's not good enough.
Nope.
This car will have 3 attempts today.
And again, we saw that he did, a really fast lap earlier with that 225 range, but that was getting a tow to help that out. But the track's still pretty warm. We got 2 hours. We heard from Jimmy Vasser saying, hey, we're not really going to get back out here with Takuma until about 4 o'clock, just getting a bounce back on the car, and probably try qualifying around 5:30 when track conditions are even a little cooler.
It's actually a little slower.
Yes, 222.695. So this is not what Jaques and AJ are looking for.
We've talked all week and on the show starting a couple of days ago about the advantage of the draft. And Robbie, that's right about the right number, 2 to 3 miles an hour. They may have been tricked a little bit by having other cars on the racetrack.
Well, this is just kind of getting you in the mindset of saying, okay, we know where we stand right now for these conditions. Let's go back. We'll be ready as the track gets cooler. And we just got a report from Jack prior to this saying this is the hottest the track's been all week at 130 degrees.
All right, they have aborted the run, so Saavedra is safe right now, Robbie.
Have AJ Foyt, who's hopping in the car. AJ, were you tricked a little bit by maybe getting a tow earlier on the speeds he had?
We knew what we were doing. We just want to take one shot at it, that's all.
Just one shot. All right, guys, he's heading back, and I'm sure we'll see him again.
Yeah, there will be 2 more shots for that car if needed. Jaques Lazier right now is not fast enough to get into this year's 500 field.
The reason that AJ Foyt would say we know what we're doing, we want to have a run at it, it's one guaranteed way of doing a qualifying simulation with no other cars on the racetrack to get a read. Yeah, you're always looking when there's people out there doing full tank testing, you don't get that opportunity. So hey, we have 3 attempts, we'll present it and find out what we have.
Yeah, and they know exactly where they stand.
Now they do.
Jaques Lazier drove 4 races for AJ Foyt back in 2003. He's been competing in the IZOD IndyCar Series since '99. Has driven for John Menard, Pat Patrick, Chip Ganassi, Sam Schmidt, and others. Down to Robbie Floyd.
Dan Wheldon, we'll try to get some love over here. You just calling people, snapping your fingers. What's going on?
No, we're just waiting for the car, that National Guard number 4 car, so we can keep working on it in race trim. But I think the Panther Racing team have done a really good job. Obviously, Ed's car's running well, and the Panther car is too. So we're excited.
Did it surprise you a little bit that he was a little quicker than you?
No, it's one of those things. It's good. It's good because certainly we can learn from that. But it's great having a teammate like Ed here because when you're a 2-car team, you can share information and stuff like that. But like I say, everybody at Panther has done a very, very good job. Not just this month, leading into this month, and that's why we're excited for the race.
Great job with the troops. Bob Jenkins talked about it earlier today.
Yeah, I mean, I've been blessed with great sponsors before. I've had Target, Jim Beam, Klein Tools. I've done some stuff with 7-Eleven, but, you know, the National Guard is very real. And, you know, to be part of that, I'm honored and inspired. So it's, you know, it's just great to represent a group like that, and something that I'm, you know, very, very proud of.
All right, relaxing right now. Looks like a little more overcast track temps starting to come down. You looking forward to going out and throwing down some quick times in race conditions?
We're just working on the car in race trim. We want it to be good in traffic. I mean, you know what the Indianapolis race is like. You've got to be good in all conditions, and you know, that's what we're working on right now, and we'll continue to work on.
Good luck at it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
Dan Wheldon, yesterday a qualifier here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Stay with us. More coming up from Indy.
I'm not superstitious, but I do always get in the right side of the car.
Yeah, I have to get in from one side of the car. I can't remember which side, I always forget.
I always get inside the car from the left side. I always put the left shoe first.
Maybe I jump in the car from the left-hand side.
Oh yeah, always on the left.
Well, I always do get in from the left. I don't know how to get in from the right. Never have.
I step in on the left, but who doesn't?
I think it's right side because I put the left foot in first. Yeah, it is.
He steps in on the right? That's the problem.
I try to step in with my right foot, but it doesn't really matter. I forget a lot.
I normally go with my right foot from the left side of the car, and when I come out the other side. If you tell me it's superstition, I'm not sure. If I don't get in that way, it doesn't feel right.
Before I get in, I bend to the car and I just like pretending that I'm sending all my respect to him, and then I jump in.
That's an interesting comment, what he does before he gets in the car every time. He recognizes and is respectful of the car. I'm not sure he can say that today.
Well, it's not the car's fault. I mean, it's
yeah, well,
you know, it's where you put the settings on the car that make it do what it needs to do. But yes, that dynamic, it's a strange dynamic that as we look at Graham Rahal here and how he's talked about how his car has talked to him since he has been here in a good way, that you have, in a way, you get that feel that the car is with you or against you.
I mentioned this yesterday. I'll mention it again. 50 years ago today, it was the final day of qualifying. It was actually May 22nd. A car painted very similarly to Graham Rahal's. It was a two-tone purple lavender type deal. It was driven by Jim Hurtubise, and it was one of those things where I remember exactly where I was when I heard that Jim Hurtubise had come extremely close to going 150 miles an hour here, which at that time many thought would never be achieved. 50 years ago on this day, not date, but day.
And think of the 150-mile barrier, just, you know, that big wheel in that race car, and watching him working that wheel on those skinny tires. What a different deal it is to run 220-mile-an-hour average laps versus that 150. He was probably working as hard as anybody just to do that 150.
And the other thing is that 150 miles an hour then was way more dangerous than 220 now.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you bet. Yep.
Men were men, right? Back then.
I was standing in line. My mom and dad had taken me to a church luncheon. I grew up in a little town in eastern Indiana, and this was an even littler town, but I was standing in line waiting to get some food when somebody said that Jim Hurtubise had gone almost 150. Couldn't believe it. All right, Lindy, Saavedra dodged one bullet.
He sure did. Here you are sitting here, first time on the bubble, watching someone run. How was it?
It's nerve-wracking. It's crazy. I remember watching this when I was 8 years old, and I saw these people having so much stress and everything, but until you don't live it, you cannot understand how bad is it.
And that wasn't really many 2 years ago, was it?
Oh, no. So 10 years only, so it's been quite interesting. It's hard.
Have you been able to go out? We talked earlier, you said you found something interesting working on some changes. Have you been able to test it yet?
The thing is, it's still very hot right now, and we just want the track conditions to cool down for us to go out there, because the first attempt was very slow because of the temperature. So we want to see, we only have 21 laps to test because of the engine. So we just want to take advantage of every lap that we can have.
All right, good luck to you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Robbie?
Sometimes there's situations when you have rookie drivers out there, you may want to go ahead and try an established veteran like Oriol Serbia. Are you walking the pits trying to find that last second ride?
Well, I mean, I don't know what I'm doing anymore. I had a program that was very close to happen with Newman Haas. It was a proper program to try to go for the win. And we learned this week that, the sponsor didn't come through at the end. And so, yeah, I'm just walking around. I had many teams calling just in case they wanted me here, because we think we could do it. But at this hour, it's 2 hours to go to the end. I think, it's more than a miracle. But
we talk about the seats that are fitted for you. So what do? You show up here with your driving suit and with seat in hand?
Well, yeah, because, I was prepared to do with Newman Haas. I had everything here. I had the seat, the helmet, suits. I passed my medical. I've been ready to go for a week. So, yeah, I'm kind of an ideal situation to step in a car and try to make it. But, there's a lot of teams trying to make it. It's not easy with the conditions. So, I hope for the best for everybody. And hopefully something better will come around for me.
And a very talented driver in 4 races. He was hired on for Newman Haas Lanigan Racing last year. He finished in the top 7 in 3 of them.
And has raced here at Indianapolis twice, finishing 26th last year for Rahal Letterman Racing. There's the 36 car of Bertrand Baguette waiting to go onto the track. Back in a moment. Become a member of IndyCar Nation. Log on to IndyCar.com for free live timing and scoring, race control, exclusive membership benefits, and much more. IndyCar.com. Become a member of IndyCar Nation. Beautiful day here in Indianapolis, albeit rather warm, we understand. Takuma Sato is on the racetrack for some practice. He has been in the field, but was bumped out a few hours ago, actually, trying to find some speed that will get him back in.
And he just crossed the line just as he backed off. 225.4 for the second fastest lap of the day. Certainly by far fastest lap. Again, that's with help. That's with aerodynamic help with a tow, but still, they're going the right direction.
But we saw some great confidence from Jimmy Vasser about an hour going, we're pretty confident we got our 224 range set up on this car. It feels good. He said, we're just waiting for the track to cool down. That was a reassuring thing that you want to see as a driver. No problems, no drama. We got you covered, Takuma, don't worry. And he shows with 225.4 is pretty good.
Alex Tagliani is on the 2.5-mile oval. After the impressive performance all during last week in the practice, and he backed it up in qualifying, putting his car in the middle of the second row for next Sunday's race.
He's working a 222.3 range. Again, that would be a smoking race pace in these kind of conditions. Again, don't know how much fuel.
Well, everybody always says, a happy qualifying car is a happy race car. I mean, just fast no matter what you do with it, and that looks to be Tag's case.
But, that was their philosophy. I think we've mentioned many times, but worth mentioning again, that Alan McDonald, who is his engineer, was formerly with Andretti Autosport, came over with Rob Edwards and a lot of other great engineers on that team. Their philosophy was, we are not going to work on race setup until after we qualify. Because just like you said, Robbie, their philosophy was a fast qualifying car is going to be a fast race car. This, by what they have said, is really his first opportunity to prove that to be true.
222 miles an hour, and it doesn't look like he's in a big tow with somebody, so that would be a pretty solid pace if you're leading that pack at the end of the 500, as we talked about earlier.
When day is done, the 33 starters in this year's 500-mile field will be going to the East Coast. They'll be at the ESPN complex. They will be on Times Square in New York City. They will go to a party in Boston. Izod is exposing the drivers in the Indianapolis 500 to the media in the East Coast and in New York City. And Jaques Arute is in the Izod Performance Pit Center.
And I've just been noodling a little bit with who's out and who's in and listening to what you guys are saying. So let's go back through it. We've got Takuma Sato over here, right, guys? And you're all of the impression that he's got enough speed once the sun begins to go down. I don't buy it. And the reason that I don't buy it is strictly because what we saw from car 41. And I'm beginning to wonder if any of these guys would be outside of Tony Kanaan, and even I think now he may be in jeopardy. Now let me explain to you why. 223.634, right? That's the magic number. I was talking to A.J. Foyt, and we were talking a little bit about the difference in the temperatures and the way it's affecting the cars and everything, and he brought up exactly what you guys were talking about yesterday. There isn't as distinct an advantage for waiting till 5 o'clock because the sun still is higher than it is once we adopted here at Indy Eastern Daylight Savings Time. So it's been kind of interesting to see just what's going to unfold. Now, I haven't talked at all about Milka Duno. Milka Duno has been getting some help from her Boy Scout of America teammate, of course, Alex Lloyd. And Alex is standing by with our Robbie Floyd.
That's right, Alex. You just hopped out of the car, went right on top of the box, and you talked to Milka. What did you have to say?
Yeah, we just wanted to put me in the car just to double check everything, make sure everything was as it was for me. Same setup and everything. I found there was a little bit of play in the wheel, which can give the car a very uncomfortable feeling as you're kind of bringing it to the right, then turning it in. If you get a dead spot, it can feel very uncomfortable. So we worked on that, just getting the steering to feel right, making sure that we had no play in it. A couple of other little things. We put a set of my tires on it and ran just a couple of laps with pretty high downforce, and the car felt as we'd expected it to do. Felt okay, felt fine. And then we don't, because it's my tires that have to come with me as a driver, we don't have any more tires to play with, and we've got to get Milka in the car. So I just basically came out and said, okay, with that downforce on, it feels good. Car feels as we'd expect, and we'll go from there and put Milka in the car. And
they've been working on this car all day. Will this car, do you think, be able to make it into that field of 33?
Yeah, I'm confident. We worked on my car a lot and got the setup all right. This is the same setup. Milka's ready to go. We can get this car in the show, so still got a little bit of time. We'll get Milka back in the car, get comfortable, and we'll go put it in the show.
And with the right car, you know she can do it, guys. I mean, she was one of the first ones to throw it down on bump day last year, and she's hoping to be the last lady to make it in the field today.
And we have just about 90 minutes remaining in qualifying on this bump day at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We'll be right back. Indianapolis, Indiana. Milka Duno has had her car on the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in the past few minutes by her teammate Alex Lloyd, trying to dial it in for qualifying. Now she is in the car. Gilles de Ferran won the Indianapolis 500 in 2003, and he retired from competition as far as the Indy 500 is concerned, but he is now a team owner. Jack?
And you've got both of your cars solidly in the field for this year's Indy 500. It had to be a tremendous weight lifted off your shoulders, you and Luxo Dragon yesterday.
Absolutely, Jack. I mean, it was a very tense week. Frankly, we don't have any spare cars, so we are very conscious of making baby steps throughout the week, and thankfully we were able to get both cars solidly in the field. I think both Rafa and David did a great job. We came very close to getting to that top 9 over there, and particularly with Rafa, we were less than 0.1 of a mile an hour away from it. So maybe we should try it, but in the end, we took a conservative approach, and today we're just doing race running. The car's running very well. Both guys are in really good shape.
Gil, you have watched Tony Kanaan and what he has gone through, not only just today, but yesterday. You've driven these cars. You've experienced the highs and the terrible lows. If you had a chance right now to talk to your friend, what would you tell him?
He's got to find a way to clear his mind, because this place really has a way to mess up with your head. It's a very, very difficult racetrack, particularly in qualifying. The car is on the edge. Anything that you do with the steering, you get a amplified reaction in the handling of the car. So, and when you go into 2 accidents after 2 days, it's really, really hard to get back in the car and run with qualifying trim. So somehow he has to find a way to clear his head, pretend nothing has happened, you know, pretend that he's just starting from a blank sheet of paper. But believe me, it's very hard to do that.
That's easy for you and me to say.
Exactly. It's not that bad, really, is it?
Let's talk a little bit and project forward to a week ago, a week from today. How do you see this year's Indy 500 unfolding?
Well, I think it's going to be a really competitive race. I mean, you look at practice throughout the week, you can tell obviously Helio's been strong all week. You know, Power's been strong all week. Tagliani's been strong all week. I mean, Dyer has been a bit up and down the whole week. But, you know, even us in race stream, we're looking good, I would say. So I think it's going to be a very, very, very competitive race. I really don't see anybody playing a massive amount of superiority. Obviously, whoever watched qualifying yesterday may argue against me, given that Helio really, in my mind, destroyed the field. But and really has a great chance to win his 4th Indy 500. But I expect a very tight race.
Yeah, if you take a look at what I call race trim and the speeds and what the drivers have been reporting about how early you can pick up the draft and how much amplified the draft is now that the rear of the car has been cleaned up. Does it become a case of wanting to be in the right place at the right time in 2nd position?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, it really depends what kind of wing you have versus what kind of hip the guy's leading has, you know. And it's just learning how to play the draft, how to get your car ready for the end of the race. And sometimes if you have a guy that started a little bit further back and made his way through the field, it's unlikely that that guy will be as trimmed out as the guy that started up front. So you may get some differences there right at the end, but it's a game of cat and mouse. I mean, when I won my race here in 03, that's exactly what happened. You know, I had more wing on than Helio did. I managed to pass him in traffic, and I knew I could not lift. You know, when I was leading there at the end, I said, if I lift here, he's by me. So, but my car was very good. I had to lift, and I think I won the race. But then again, if he passed me, it was very difficult. It would have been very difficult for me to get back.
Hey, it's good to have you in the HP and have you back with them and as part of the team full time. And you know what? I don't know about you, but I'm glad the guys upstairs didn't throw to Jack and Jill.
Yeah, that would have been bad.
Yeah, we'd have to go beat them.
That would have been terrible, yeah.
Thanks, guys.
And another former driver who is a car owner is Brian Herde. He competed here in Indianapolis 5 times. He owns the car that is driven by Sebastian Saavedra, the slowest car in the field at the moment. And Sebastian has been out on the track for some laps. Helio Castroneves is on the track also right now for practice. And yesterday afternoon, he set the bar as far as speeds are concerned for this year's 500-mile race. Helio Castroneves turning in a 4-lap average during the shootout. He was the first out in that last 90-minute period. Qualified at 227.970. The Peak Pole Award of $100,000 plus $75,000 from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and 15 points toward the championship of the IZOD IndyCar Series. Helio Castroneves will start from pole a week from today in the 2010 Indianapolis 500. Now 1 hour and 25 minutes to go on Bump Day 2010. The 7-Eleven car of Tony Kanaan is back on pit lane, struggling to get this car to the point of making the field for the 500-mile race. A crash yesterday in qualifying, a crash earlier today in practice. The field is full. Tony Kanaan, a veteran of this racetrack and this race, is not yet in the field.
And we heard Gilles de Ferran said he just needs to forget about it, take that all of his mind, have a fresh set, you know, a clean sheet of paper. But how do you do that? That's easy to say that, but can you really forget about that and do it?
You still have to creep up on the car. They closed the garage. They went back there because they obviously are making a change, and one would assume a significant change. You don't want to be crazy about it. You have to go out there and lean on it, and as soon as the car talks back to you saying, okay, I'm with you, then clear your mind and say, okay, let's stand on it and see what it's got.
And when the car does start talking to you, it doesn't mean all of a sudden, okay, it's starting to talk to him, we can trim it back out and get to back around. No, you still got to just continue along with those steps. Is there enough time? You know, once he does gain that confidence, is the car going to be fast enough at that point and then go faster? Are we going to be up against the 6 o'clock hour by the time that happens?
Jaques Lazier is also out there getting some speed up for the race, and a few minutes ago he got up and almost white-walled it, got up into the gray and kicked up some dust.
Yeah.
That's okay.
But he's just, all he's doing, he's just showing AJ that he's driving hard.
Yeah,
that's
okay.
all. He knew exactly what he's doing.
Look at this. I'll kick up a little dust.
Wow, that's about as close as you can come, isn't it?
And that's when you got to say, when you're the guy behind him there, John Andre, say, whoa, I don't need to be getting caught up in anything. I got in the show this morning. My race car's feeling good. So those that are out doing full tank runs right now and finding out about the race car, they also got to be heads up about the guys right now that are fighting to get in this race and manhandling those race cars.
Now, of course, what happened there was Marco Andretti was ahead of him. As someone who would be on a race setup, there's some aerodynamic wash off the car, and you're following in a qualifying setup. So yes, the car will run up to the wall because it's not designed to be running behind other cars. It's all about qualifying.
Yep. Okay, while we watch Jaques Lazier there, let me give you some numbers. The average speed of the field at this point is 224.932. Last year's average was 222.481. The last time the average was faster than 203 was in 2003, rather, at 227.145. As it stands right now, and it can only get faster, of course, this is the 5th fastest field average in history. TK slides into the cockpit once again.
Well, the last couple times that we've seen him go out, he's done a couple laps and really not gotten up to any real significant speed, and the rear of that car has just moved around from him, and we both have looked at each other, Jan, and immediately he's dumped the throttle and come in. And look at those temperatures, 91 degrees ambient, Bob.
And the track temperature, though, is down from a little while ago.
Yeah, we had it at about 131 40 minutes ago, so that makes for a happier race car. When that track temperature comes down, it can make for a nicer, balanced race car.
Yeah, but there's a new twist in this weather, guys. You see that 5-mile-an-hour wind gust that we're getting? We didn't have significant wind, at least of that magnitude, last week. For Tony Kanaan, he's got to dial that out of his head as well, because when he comes down this front straightaway, that windsock is going to be stretched out, and it's going to be pointing right at him.
On the bubble, Sebastian Saavedra at 223.634. Yet to qualify, 4 drivers trying to get in. Tony Kanaan, Takuma Sato, Jaques Lazier, and Milka Duno. Will they get it done? We've got another hour and 18 minutes to make the decision. Welcome back to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Preparations continue for the 2010 Indianapolis 500 a week from today. This is bump day, the final day of qualifying. Tony Kanaan is not yet in the field. They've been working on the car for the past few minutes, and now they take it back onto the race course to see if they can find the speed necessary to get into this year's race.
How about the intensity we saw on his face when they were just strapping him in, his eyes shut, just kind of envisioning where things are going? Just takes your breath away just thinking what he's having to go through right now, and dig deep to say, I know this car's good. Got to find that confidence in the race car and feel that he wants.
These warm-up laps are as hair-raising using as full speed laps, because anytime you roll out with a new setup on the car, you really don't know for sure what to expect.
That lap was 220.5, but he's just getting warmed up. A lot of traffic out there on the race course besides TK.
Remember, it was twice that he crashed was on his second hot lap, which is what he would be starting now. So his turn into turn number 1, assuming he's on the same sort of warm-up program, was where he's run into trouble.
221.21.
And as we said, he's not going to just jump up and see a 223.24. He's just kind of got to ease up to it, get confidence in the race car, know that that race car's talking back to him. He's getting the sense and feel with the front of that car leading that he likes, and it says to him, challenge me, drive me hard into the corner as you roll down in.
He is the only driver in Speedway history to lead in 7 consecutive 500-mile races. He did not lead in last year's race. John Andretti on the warm-up lane. In turn number, oh boy, is he out of the groove, huh? Oh,
wow, he's lucky to pull that back.
He almost did a tank slapper there. That could have been ugly.
And John Andretti was the guy that was behind Jaques Lazier when he went up on the wall, and now he gets high coming. Oh, that's big sideways.
Man, oh man, he was sideways.
Great job of gathering that up.
Andretti and TK are teammates, of course, with Andretti Autosport.
I'd pull it down. I'd pull it down in if I was John Andretti too. Oh man.
So TK is also going to come in. His fast lap during that segment was 221.56. The clock continues to count down. We have an hour and 13 minutes left to go on Bump Day.
Bruno Junqueira, no seat time to speak of. 4 laps in the morning, 1 quick shakedown, and boom, boom, he's straight in, 221.1. Ain't nothing to it.
We have a quick car. Unfortunately, the track is so quick that, you know, we might need to be ready to go out and protect our position.
And Alex Tagliani was behind John Andretti. He pulls out.
It's all come down to this for John Andretti.
It's going to be close.
Checkered flag, 221.316.
Yeah.
He did it.
Look at that.
Will try to get back into the field, and the man on the bubble is Tagliani. This will probably be the last qualifying attempt. 220.597, and Tagliani has been bumped. That was last year. Drama this year, different players. Tony Kanaan not in the field, and just a little more than 1 hour to get that 7-Eleven car into the 500-mile race. The final day, the final practice for the qualified cars will come this coming Friday, Carb Day. We will have it here on Versus, the final practice. Then we will have the Freedom 100, for the Firestone Indy Lights, and then the pit stop competition, and Sebastian Saavedra has crashed.
Oh boy, Brian Herta's group there, team owner. There he is.
They needed to go out to get a read on the car in case they got bumped. They don't have another car, and he's on the bubble.
And even if you had another car, there's no way you could prep it and turn it around and get it back out to defend this.
And so you have to run to see what you have in case you're bumped. And now if you are, you've got nothing to fight back with. Well,
there's the safer barrier that he hit. This is the 19-year-old Colombian boy.
And he is the one on the bubble at a 223.6 average, and we haven't really seen anybody in the last half hour get close to showing they have that speed to bump him out. But we are getting in to when this track is really fast. You know, happy hour, that's going to start at 5 o'clock. That's when we could see some speeds.
Getting a round of applause over there in the part of the racetrack that he crashed in, which was turn number 1. Ooh, big hit.
Wow. Got sideways pretty early in the corner.
Very early.
Yeah. A lot earlier than what we've seen happen to TK there.
Robbie's with Brian Herta.
And Brian, what happened?
Well, you know, obviously came back out here in the heat to just try and look for a little more speed, expecting we're going to have to defend our position, and went down there into one. It looked like the back just got away from Sebastian. It's a shame because that kind of takes it out of our hands now. We're so proud of this little team that, you know, rookie driver, rookie team, the only true rookie in the field here, and you know, we've made solid progress all week long, and we're really satisfied with how we've been doing. It felt like we had a little more if we needed to at the end of the day here. So now it's out of our hands. Now we just got to sit and watch. But, you know, I think we're in trouble.
Watch and wait, and you can repair this car. I mean, that's your only option now, right? For another day.
Yeah, but not for today.
Exactly. Thanks, Brian. Linda?
John Andretti, you had a close call out there. Talk about the conditions.
Well, I think they're okay, I guess. I was real happy with the Winter World Delar, and then we went to make a longer run and got out there and was trying to find some traffic. And as I got up in there, we made a change, and I was going to come in, and I was in front of Dario. I apologized to him because it scared him probably as much as it scared me. And but other car took off on me, and but unfortunately, I guess the old man still has a little few reflexes left in him, but. It was more lucky than skill that we were able to bring it back in, but fortunately it's still one piece, and we're going to go back. Marco's had a really good day, and we're going to go. He helped us a lot on the qualifying stuff, so we'll just lean on him and help us for the race too.
What are your thoughts on these couple of days? I mean, obviously your teammate Tony, we just saw Sebastian.
It's Indianapolis. I mean, I was one of those guys last year, and I never spun here, so. You know, the competition is so keen, and everybody's so close. You got to run them so much on edge to get the lap time out of them. And then when the track gives up a little bit, it's just something that you got to keep going for because you got to have the speed. So I'm glad I'm not sitting here like I was last year trying to get in at the last minute. And I know my teammate Ryan Hunter-Reay and I were the last two guys in last year, so I think he's pretty happy too to not have to do it again.
How hard mentally is this?
Well, I think it's especially hard. You know, the cool thing about it is Tony is such a strong competitor that, you know, what happened earlier is gone. It's just getting the car right and getting him in the race. And I know that for him, he'll stand up and carry it and do whatever he's got to, but he'll make this race, and we'll be seeing Tony plow his way up to the front like he always does.
Thank you, John. Lots of teammate support. Bob?
Yeah, John Andretti is okay, and Sebastian Saavedra's car is not. Jack?
All right, guys, I want to show you on our screen as the sweeper goes by where the debris is being picked up on the racetrack. That's not the concern right now. You can see where Saavedra actually hit the wall, right? Well, that wall is the safer barrier. And what has to be done now is they're going to have to make some repairs to that safer barrier. What does that mean? We are getting to within the last 60 minutes of qualifying. The amount of time that it's going to take to repair this, and it will be done as fast as they possibly can do it, it's going to put an added sense of urgency on the people that are going to try and qualify. I think that what's going to happen is somebody's going to look at all of this and say, we don't have time. They're going to get in the chute real quick, and they're going to begin to press this a little sooner than heretofore if this hadn't happened.
Well, we will see, certainly, as we do near the 5 o'clock hour. The cleanup now going on for Sebastian Saavedra, who backed it into the first turn safer barrier just moments ago.
We can break out! From Indianapolis, Indiana, scene of the world's greatest racing, Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
The Indianapolis Indianapolis 500, the greatest spectacle in racing. An American tradition with a century of pursuits. 33 cars running wide open at over 200 miles an hour. A 500-mile chase toward racing immortality. Time trials at Indianapolis have placed 24 cars in the field through yesterday's 2 stages of qualifying. It was an afternoon of drama. The highest of highs and lowest of lows.
Somehow I wish we would just be over with now.
Plain bad luck for one team or pushing the envelope a little too hard. A few Indy favorites were left on the outside looking in for the evening pole shootout. As the top 9 cars return to requalify, Helio Castroneves in his quest for his 4th Indy 500 title turned the fastest 4-lap average, landing him on the pole position for the 2nd consecutive year.
Wow! Almost 228 miles an hour.
An incredible performer for an incredible owner.
Let the games begin.
Today, the final 9 positions will be filled. Then drivers must bump their way into the 500 field, where the fastest 33 cars will make the race. It's bump day at the Brickyard.
Let's go, baby! We're gonna run wide open today. Come on!
Less than 1 hour to go on bump day. The field is full. 33 cars have qualified. Takuma Sato has been bumped out. We have 4 drivers that are trying to get into this race. The driver who was on the bubble, Sebastian Saavedra, has crashed at the south end of the racetrack. We didn't count on this little delay here, and the clock is ticking, but still lots of time for those 4 drivers to get their job done.
And for those 4 drivers, I think they see Saavedra going in the wall. They're like, oh boy, conditions still really are tough. And I think the big question mark is, with this track cooling down, is it going to make the speeds come alive here? That's the big question mark.
And the question mark is, will it cool fast enough? And this just was a wake-up call for everyone. And I think Takuma Sato, as we see here, I think he's going to be racy. I have to go with Jimmy Vasser when he says we can dial up a 224 and we can get it in. Of course, the big question mark, Tony Kanaan.
Tony Kanaan has not made the race yet. Neither has Milka Duno, driving car number 18. She is not in the starting lineup. Let's go to Jaques Arute, who's with the president of competition for the IndyCar Series.
And some good news. Brian Barnhart had told us that he thought they were going to have to put weld a piece of steel on the safer barrier, but now your crew's gone over there, did an in-person inspection. What's the verdict?
Right now, no repairs necessary for the safer barrier. We should be up and going again in less than 5 minutes.
Brian, let's reiterate this final hour and what we're going to see here.
Well, obviously, we got a full field. The 29 cars still on a bump at 223.6, and you got 4 cars with attempts remaining to come back and try and make the field and bump their way into it. 29 car, unfortunately, looks like they've taken themselves out, that if they get bumped out, they're not going to be able to make a run to try and get back in. But it should be pretty exciting here. It'll be interesting to see how much the track cools down, if it improves enough. It's one of the warmest days we've had, and if the track picks up 1 or 2 mile an hour, that can make all the difference.
All right, thanks, Brian, and good luck.
Thank you.
Let's check in with Robbie Floyd.
And I'm with Ryan Hunter-Reay, who's teammates with Tony Kanaan. Ryan Hunter-Reay safely in the field. TK definitely not in the field. They do have stickers on. The question is when they're going to get this thing fired up. Have you talked to TK lately?
Yeah, we've been with him for the past couple hours. You know, it's a tough position to be in. It's, you know, he's obviously a champion. He's won many races. So this isn't down to his driving talent. It's, this is just a, you know, Indy can do this, can happen to a team like this. And it's what happened is this morning, circumstances as they were, he had to go to a different car. Yeah, the settings didn't come in exactly the same, and the front was just pinned, absolutely pinned. And we saw that in the data. And, you know, he was lifting and he lost the car. So, and then the crew's been putting it back together, and now he's back out. And as I said, when you go to different race cars, there's always going to be differences. You almost need a full test day sometimes just to dial in one race car, a new race car, and that's what we're having here. So it's tough. The team's scrambling, but we only have so much time with this bump day format.
when you talk about the front end being pinned, that lightens up the rear end. That's why it comes around?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very fine balance between the front wing and the rear wing and how much downforce is on the car. And if you just get that balance off just a little bit, this place will absolutely bite you real quick.
And Dario Franchitti, one of his very, very good friends, Tony Kanaan, that is, he came over here and he's been talking to him, you know, probably trying to pump up his buddy. Again, they're on different teams, but they're very good friends. And Dario said the track is just not good right now. Hopefully the weather will come in and we'll see TK out there in qualifying.
Engines are fired and the green flag is up as practice continues here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Another driver here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway on bump day who is not in the field and has tasted the concrete of the, at least the safer barrier of the speedway, is Takuma Sato. He was in the field, got bumped out, and now he's looking to get back in. He has run 225.4 earlier today, but that was before the heat moved over the track.
And with help, he's got 3 cars ahead of him. You just saw them turn into turn number 3, and you say, well, they're not even, you just barely have them in sight. The rule of thumb is, from what the drivers have told us, if you can see a car, you're getting an advantage. So if you're coming right here off of turn number 3, or in this case turn number 4, and you can see somebody turning into turn 1, you're getting help.
And maybe even if you don't see them and they're on the backside of the racetrack from where you are, just by getting that air circulating around the speedway can just give you a little bit more bump in that lap time.
Warm-up lap was 218.8 or 214.8 rather, and now Sato has cars directly in front of him.
Yeah, and he just dumped the throttle. It kind of heard all the popping come out of there because it does him no good right now to run up that closely on those cars in front of him. He really needs to get a gap so he can get a fair judgment of what speed he has in that race car.
He's got a car behind him. Jimmy Vasser will be on the radio to him saying, let one more car go by, and then there's a big gap behind you after that.
Milka Duno is also on the racetrack.
Every team from the pit stand has a little electronic kind of graphic of the racetrack with all the car numbers going around it. So when Vasser talks to Sato, he sees everybody out there and says, okay, this is where you want to be. So they can instantly see that. He doesn't have to say, oh, wait, let me figure out who's out there right now. He can instantly give that feedback to the driver.
Kanaan back on track.
On a new set of tires. We had seen that when we saw the car on pit road. And that's what you have to do. You have to keep putting new sets of tires. You get 33 sets for the entire duration, including the race. And they'll mount as many as 12 sets of tires for the race itself. So you take that right out of your allotment. Figured you use a set of tires every time you make a qualifying attempt. And now they're using a set of tires every time they simulate one. So they do go fast.
It's something you have to measure. And like you said, okay, you take 12 new tires out of the equation. Well, sometimes you may have to dip into that 12. When you get to this point, no one ever thinks you're going to be this situation on bump day. If you did, then you wouldn't want to come here.
I would have thought that TK would have been in this position after the 6th fastest speed in practice prior to yesterday's crash.
Not me. Not TK. I mean, we really would have, if you would have scripted things on the end of Friday saying, yeah, he's probably a top 9 guy.
Absolutely.
By the way, why this is going on, Takuma Sato stood back on the gas, and he's working a 225.5 lap right now, and he's just coming up in the background. But you see he's getting help from the 2 cars ahead, and that was the indicator that we saw previously. We thought he was flying.
And remember, we saw Jaques Lazier out of Foyt's car. He posted a really fast time of 225, but then when he went out for his run, he only did 222.5.
So he has just done his fastest lap of the day at a 225.468 has Sato.
And Jan, you brought up the point when Jaques Lazier went out there and tried to qualify that they were looking for the clean lap to be able to do a clean simulation. Why then is Takuma Sato not doing the same? Remember, you're only entitled to 3 attempts throughout the course of the day as we look at Jimmy Vasser there. And here's the issue. Sato always used one up, was in the field and was bumped. So he's got 2. You don't want to play that close when you only have 2, because if you get in and they get bumped again, you want to be able to go back out one more time.
You know what's really important about this game and being successful is you got to have a plan, and you stick to the plan. Jimmy Vasser talked to us, earlier about what the plan was with Sato. We're going to come back out here about 4 o'clock, do a little bit of running, see what we got, and then when it gets closer to 5:30, track gets a little happier, we're going to make our run, and they're sticking right with that plan.
And Tony Kanaan is knocking on the 224 door. That was a high 223. They're making some progress.
Okay. Well, the fact that he's making that progress, that's just got to give him a little bit more incentive to say, okay, it's good. Coming down pit road, TK.
We may be nearing the time when the qualifying line begins to form. Takuma Sato has shown just moments ago that he has the speed, but with other cars on the racetrack, it's not going to be easy for him to get into this year's field.
Take me out to the Brickyard. Take me out with the crowds. Buy me some earplugs and a checkered cap. I don't care if we ever get back. Take me out to the Brickyard. Take me out where it's loud. This place has a history that stirs the soul. 100-year drama that never gets old. Let me root, root, root over the engine's roar. Let me cheer every driver and car. For it's 300, 400, 500 miles round the old Brickyard.
But 12:51 was the last time we had a qualifier. Let's get down to Robbie Floyd.
I'm with the 36 car's driver, Bertrand Baguette, who we're trying to find a nickname for. Now, people in America aren't used to seeing you except for on versus in the IZOD IndyCar Series. But you've beat some pretty stiff competition like Jamie Alguersuari, who's driving in Formula 1, and you even tested F1 back in December. What brought you to the IZOD IndyCar Series?
Well, I think that IZOD IndyCar Series is a very tough championship. Last year I won the Ferrari Renault 3.5 with a feeder series to Formula 1. And I wanted to do something higher, with a higher level. And I think that the IZOD IndyCar Series is a very tough championship. You have a lot of good teams, a lot of good drivers, so I think that's the place to be.
Are you starting to Americanize yourself a little bit? You starting to get the feel of the USA?
I'm trying yet, but I have still a lot to learn, so...
How about this track? You learning a lot so far?
Yeah, the track is fantastic. It's a huge circuit, long straight lines, 4 different corners. Really challenging for the driver. I mean, you are close to the wall, and if you do a mistake, you go in the wall. So I like it a lot.
It's known as the greatest spectacle in racing. Did you think it would be this magnanimous?
I didn't think so. No, the first time I came here, I said, wow, it's huge. It's a big, big, big circuit. And I'm curious to see on Sunday how the track will be with 400,000 people in the grandstands. That will be incredible, I think.
It'll be extremely exciting. A rookie, Bertrand Baguette, who we're trying to find a nickname for. Some of the guys online say maybe more NASCAR-ish.
Indy 500s have been won from the pole, and involved are the 2 guys that you see on the screen now, Scott Dixon and Leo Castroneves. Down to Jaques Lazier.
Let me take you back here to the IZOD Performance Pit and talk about something that we tend to neglect unless you're a driver. Now, helmets have evolved through the course of the years. Now, when Bob and I first started covering the Indy 500, they still used the open face leather helmets. Now, when Jan and Robbie were driving, it's similar, little bit like a conventional full face helmet. But then after that, they decided that they needed to trim the helmet out the same way they trim a car out. So they began to add some ripple strips. The idea being that they could route the air effectively over the helmet. Well, it's gone to the next iteration now. You see drivers that need to trim their helmets out. Here's what they do, and here's the latest, although no drivers are using this right now, but what they do is they add little inlets, they add little ripples, and they'll trim it with simple weather stripping so that it disrupts the air, and the most important thing is routes it over the head, keeps the head stable, and more importantly, gets as much air as possible into the air inlet that is right above each and every driver's head.
And Jack, of course, it's amazing that one little piece of weather stripping can make the difference between your helmet feeling like it's going to get sucked off your head and keeping it stable. A little bit of turbulence, Bob, and it just blurs your vision.
Just a little before 4 o'clock Eastern time. We'll be with you till 6:30 this evening, wrapping up all the activity from Bump Day at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We were with you for 7.5 hours yesterday, and we're with you for 6.5 hours today. So we set the stage for the greatest spectacle in racing a week from today here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. The track is open for practice. The field is full for this year's running of the greatest spectacle in racing, and on the track, Helio Castroneves and Scott Dixon are working together.
And this would be a scenario that you may well see on race day. Both Robbie Buell and I think that even though Scott Dixon wasn't as racy as he wanted to be in qualifying, that he'll be a definite player in the race. Castroneves would like now every opportunity that he can get to size him up, to figure out what it's going to take to run with the likes of Scott Dixon.
Dixon qualifying yesterday for the outside of the second row at a 4-lap average of 226.233 miles an hour.
Just to give you an idea, they're running around at 221-ish at the moment, and we've talked a lot about their speeds into turn one. In race trim, it comes down a lot. About 224, 225 miles an hour, where they're up to 232 was Helio in qualifying.
The last two.
Teammate Danica Patrick.
Ziggy Harkus also saying, just like yesterday.
Those sparks on the first crash were normal bottoming. It just, Robbie, looked like the back of the car floated, and he almost had that happen to him again in the third car later today.
And when you talk about that floating, that was on his second time by. Both incidents was on the second time by as he'd come out of the pits on sticker tires, bring him up to temperatures and pressures.
Now, you may be wondering, he was lightning fast on Friday. So you say, well, why not just throw a Friday setup onto the car and get right back out where you were? Remember, Friday was completely different conditions. You heard that from Paul Tracy. When the track gets hot, you can't throw the same setup on the car. It acts completely differently. You have to start afresh and find something that works in these kind of conditions.
Yeah, well, if you're watching today, even the conditions going from 12 o'clock when we started for qualifying till 1. And look at this. So we talk about the heat and track temperatures and where it's going. Somebody's rolling in line.
That's Jaques Lazier, and he turned at 220.5 a little while ago.
Yeah, and Jan said, you know, noted with a tow, but still, to even get that time with a tow means, you know what, we feel pretty good about that race car.
Here's a meeting of the minds. Brian Barnhart and A.J. Foyt.
It used to be 4 to 5. So it doesn't
Track is yellow, and it's for this qualification attempt. It's been quite a while since we had a qualifying.
Because the air gets a little bit disrupted across the helmet, and all of a sudden, A, you get a headache, B, you can't see where you're going, and you say, okay, time for a little bit of tuning on the old noggin.
And speak for yourself, Jack, on the leather.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah.
You missed that, Robbie. Jack Arute said that when he and Bob were covering, they had the leather helmets. You and I had at least the real full-face Jaques.
Yeah, we had it easy. We had it easy.
Yeah. Stay with us for more coming up on 2 hours to go on Bump Day in Indianapolis. They have lowered the garage door back in Gasoline Alley at Tony Kanaan's spot. They are just thrashing and trying to figure out what in the world is going on. In case you don't know, and in case you're just joining us, yesterday Kanaan crashed. We thought, as this unfolded this morning, that it was a replay. But about 20 minutes after 9, 20 minutes after the track opened for practice, Kanaan spinning, hitting the wall in exactly the same part of the racetrack. He hit in the short chute today, and yesterday he hit in turn number 2. But tremendous impact. Listen at this. Now compare that to yesterday's crash, which came during his qualifying attempt.
And you saw a few sparks on today's crash, and we saw a few yesterday. He almost kept this off the wall, but look at the reaction of his